JD Vance said judges aren't allowed to control the executive power. What's your take on that?
Yesterday, President Donald Trump was asked about a shocking post that was authored by his own Vice President, JD Vance. Now, we'll show you what Trump had to say in just a minute. You definitely want to hear it. But first, we do need to explain what JD Vance wrote and why he wrote it. So on Saturday, a federal judge issued an injunction that blocked Elon Musk and his DOGE team from accessing the Treasury Department's central payment system. Now, the payment system contains all sorts of private information about all of us, okay? Our social security information, sensitive stuff like that, bank account numbers. Now, the injunction came after 19 state attorneys general sued Musk and DOGE, claiming that DOGE's access to the system could illegally interfere with funds appropriated by Congress, could break federal administrative law, and violated the Treasury Department's legal obligation to keep Americans' personal, private information and data safe. Now, a hearing on the issue has been set for February 14th. But the Trump administration has not been reacting well to this, right? The temporary block of Elon Musk being able to access all that private data, he doesn't like it. He's been complaining about it. Multiple posts on X make that clear. He writes, "This ruling is absolutely insane. How on earth are we supposed to stop fraud and waste of taxpayer money without looking at how money is spent? That's literally impossible. Something super shady is going to protect scammers." He later wrote that a corrupt judge is protecting corruption. He needs to be impeached now. But JD Vance took it a step further, and this is genuinely concerning because if he's going along with what Curtis Yarvin, who wants literal monarchy in America, like if he goes along with what Yarvin wants, we have a constitutional crisis on our hands. So let me explain. JD Vance wrote, if a judge tried to tell a general how to conduct a military operation, that would be illegal. If a judge tried to command the attorney general in how to use her discretion as a prosecutor, that's also illegal. Judges aren't allowed to control the executive's legitimate power. Although judges are supposed to be part of our system of checks and balances and check a president if he does something that goes beyond his constitutional duties, right? And by the way, I mean, yeah, if a general commits war crimes, a judge can weigh in. Like you literally do have a situation where the courts can weigh in. Go ahead.
That statement by JD Vance is 100% wrong. It's meant to, and JD Vance went to Yale, he knows it's wrong. It's meant to trick you. So if a judge tried to command the attorney general on how to use her discretion as a prosecutor, that's also legal. No, it's not. It depends on the situation. What if the prosecutor took a bribe and so decided not to do a prosecution of a murderer? The judge can step in and go, no, you took a bribe. You're not allowed to do that.
So does this mean that any judges were unable to or prevented from ever weighing in on the special counsel's prosecution of Donald Trump?
Yeah, it's another great question. So look, guys, Marbury v. Madison, the most important case in Supreme Court history, one of the first cases that set most important precedent, which is the courts decide what is constitutional and what is not constitutional. You need that ref because you're always going to have questions about what is constitutional and not. If the executive branch goes, I'm deciding what's constitutional, well, that's a giant problem because then that leads to authoritarianism. That is why we objected to Barack Obama doing unilateral drone strikes on American citizens without judicial approval. And by the way, Eric Holder should hold his head in shame for the rest of his life for saying that that due process is not necessarily judicial review. Okay, that the executive branch can do due process on their own. That is garbage. It's not even close to true. Eric Holder also went to the top schools and he knows that's not true. So we are fair and honest no matter who's president or which side. What Barack Obama did was totally unacceptable. And what they're saying here is beyond unacceptable. Because if you don't listen to the courts, then our entire system breaks down. Because then the executive branch doesn't have to listen to anyone. Because if the courts say, hey, wait, Congress approved that spending, and the executive branch says, I'm not gonna do the spending, But wait, the Congress is supposed to pass the laws. They have the power of the purse. But if the executive branch doesn't listen to the courts, then they don't have to listen to Congress either. That means that we don't have a democracy anymore and the president is king.
We have a dictatorship.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so this is thermonuclear bad. Because if the courts say, Mr. President, you cannot do this. It is unconstitutional or illegal. And he says, I don't care. I'm gonna do it anyway. And I have the guns and you don't. Well, that means we'll try to have elections next time around. That means we've got a giant hole in our democracy. And that ship is gonna sink real quick. Because if that means there's really no check on the presidency. That's not America. That's not democracy. That's not our Constitution. So of all the stories we've covered for you, I think this is the most dangerous.
I agree with you. And I think that they are gonna ignore the courts. And if they do ignore the courts, then what happens? I mean, does the Supreme Court call for their arrest? That's not gonna happen.
No, so one of the next steps is, and this is unfortunately both tragic and amusing because of how ridiculous it is. They say the next thing that the courts would do if you're not following orders, and in one of the cases, the Trump administration so far has not followed the orders, and a judge has said, you're not following a court order, you must do that right now. The next thing they would have is contempt. You're in contempt, okay? All right, and what does that do? What sanctions does that carry? Nothing, zero. And so the articles hilariously explain, but that has the power of shaming.
Come on.
How are you gonna shame people that are shameless? So look guys, you don't go and do this unless you were planning to ignore the courts. Hence the shaming is not going to work at all. The idea that Donald Trump would be shamed into action is absurd. And so that means, okay, well then what's next? There really isn't anything next. The executive branch has the guns. And if you're a patriot who worried about government tyranny, it's knocking at your door. If there are no checks and balances and the courts cannot say what is legal and illegal, that means the executive branch can do any tyranny they like. And then later when you object and you say, well, no, I just wanted you to take away some agencies. I didn't want you to do tyranny against me. Too late, you already co-signed on it. So look guys, this is one of those stories. I literally don't know what's going to happen, but that would be a bona fide, horrific constitutional crisis if Trump does not listen to the courts. There is no good answer for how that ends. Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.